Paulie Malignaggi, Paulie TV. Did you just see that Derek Chisora and Joyce fight? I'm sweating. I felt like I was fighting in there. Derek Chisora continues to give us some of the most entertaining fights in boxing. Low key, because I think it's because he's not American. Maybe we don't appreciate him here on this side of the pond. Bro, but this is why the British fans are the best fans in the world. Because Derek Chisora probably wouldn't even be in one of these fights if it wasn't for the great fans in the UK. Low-key, one of the most exciting fighters in all of boxing in the world. I mean, and he keeps doing stuff like this.
They used to have the Emmanuel Augustuses in America who had multiple losses and was still relatively popular amongst boxing fans. I wouldn't say Emmanuel was mainstream though. Derek is mainstream in the United Kingdom. Would have probably made about £250,000 for his work last night. And considering he's not ranked in those sanctioning bodies, that's quite remarkable. It was a 10-rounder. It wasn't even a 12-rounder tonight. You know, the likes of Hellenius, David Haye, Pulev, who Derek won and lost against, both close fights. These guys were tipped to be world champions or be blue chip contenders. Derek's lost to all of them, but none of them are headlining cards right now. David's retired, Hellenius semi-retired, Pulev semi-retired, and Derek will be retired soon, but not quite yet. Derek said he'll be out in Manchester next. And I was trying to figure that out. Is that a TNT card? Because I'm sure Frank said that they got a deal with Derek. Some kind of deal. Perhaps Frank's got options on his next couple of fights on the proviso he beat Joe, which he did. So he's going to hit the 50 mark and then retire. And not a fight sooner or after. He'll probably carry on after that. He'll probably carry on. He likes boxing. For some people, that's troublesome to them. He'll stop when he sees fit. And if the British Boxing Board of Control say he's unfit, can't pass the medicals, then I'm on board not to license him. I'm on board with that. Don't license him. But he earned well from the Fury fight. But the fact's that, you know what I mean, like 200 grand for a night's work. People expecting him to turn that down. He's worked to be in that position to make that kind of money. I don't know. I'm a different animal. I just don't like being told what to do myself, is my stance on not telling fighters to retire. I don't like being told what to do. I don't care what it is. I hate being told what to do, or what I can do, or what people think I should be doing, or putting limits on what they think my potential is. So that's my stance on that. I worry about my own shit. What won Derek the fight? He used the ring well, actually. He used his jab well, threw some good body shots too. His punch selection was better than Joyce's. His hand speed was better than Joyce's. Like, Derek's legs looked heavy from early. And he was still outmaneuvering Joe, especially in the early rounds, and beating him to the punch. The fact that he was able to wind up his punches from so far back and land them is a damning indictment on Joe Joyce. Some people are saying Joyce should get a new trainer. Joyce is 38. He's already had Salas, who he's still with. He was with him at the start of his career. Then Abel Sanchez came in. Then with Adam Booth. There's not much more for Joyce to learn unless he wants to learn. One of the things he needs to address is his weight. He can't fight with that bulk. He was better when he was awkward and lighter. You watch his early fights when he's lighter. He's still awkward, but he was faster. And he was moving better around the ring. But he sacrificed that for this juggernaut thing. I think the Parker fight got to his head. It really got to his head. The juggernaut iron chin is one of the weirdest reputations. When did Joe Joyce have an iron chin? Was he not stopped in the amateurs in one round by Anthony Joshua and Sergei Kuzmin? But because he's defensively weak and he's taking more shots than he should be taking, perhaps, people have put this iron chin tag on him. Oh, look at them shots he's taking and not going down. And he hung his chin out there once too much when it looked like he was getting back into it. And Derek countered with that right hand, like he was doing all night. Derek didn't have to be the biggest puncher to put him down. When the punch hit Joe, Joe was square. When you're square as that, it's easier to get knocked down because your feet are squared up. There wasn't much in it. Joyce did pile up a lot of points on that jab. It didn't look spectacular. His work wasn't eye-catching like Derek's, but he had Derek hurt in the first round, and he had him hurt in the 8th, holding on. Had Derek hurt a few times. Somebody in the comment section on the live stream said, Moses ITAUMA, next for Derek Chisora? I say, oh, no, because I was thinking Moses will kill him because he's young, he's fast, he's dangerous. But thinking about it now, it's a dangerous fight for Derek, yeah. But you know who else it could be dangerous for? Moses. It could be very dangerous for him, yeah. He doesn't have the experience that Derek has. Doesn't have the experience. Hasn't been through the crisis points that Derek has through his career. So I've gone from thinking that's dangerous from Derek is dangerous for both of them. They'd have to pay Derek an awful amount of money to take it as well. I don't think our kid is on that budget yet. I'm not sure there was that much in it at the end yesterday. I don't think there was that much in it. I think the knockdown really hurt Joe. Joe did some decent work with the jab. Is that what caused the swelling on Derek's eye? It was quite a bad swelling. But you have to ask yourself, like, what was the strategy? To lean on Derek and walk him back into the ropes? Not saying that weren't effective, 25-pound weight advantage. Derek's legs were gone midway through the fight. Gave Derek too much punching opportunities. Way too much. Way too much. Calls for Joyce to retire are a little premature in my opinion. It was a good fight. Why do you retire after a good fight? He doesn't have to be the greatest of his generation to carry on. That doesn't make sense. He asked the crowd, do they want to see him again? They said, yeah, so he's going to come back. Take a rest and come back. He'll have to take another look at his career, try and make some adjustments to his training regime, maybe his camp, and come back again. And also the matchmaking has to be considered as well. Like, he can't just be taking random fights. Like, although I did pick
Derek Chisora,
I always knew this would be a tough fight. I always thought it would be a too tough fight for Joe to take not long after he'd been knocked out by Zhang. What about an immediate rematch? An immediate rematch would be good. New Year, maybe December, but it all depends when Derek is planning to get back out there. Derek's rolling and upper body movement on the ropes was brilliant all throughout. In fact, his defense helped produce the knockdown. Got to give this man credit. Very entertaining fight. When they started screaming, Chisora, late on. That's deep. That's deep. Derek won the fight because he was able to land from both hands at will. And Joe just willingly gives up his face, extending over his feet. Like, he doesn't use his 8-inch reach, like to move side to side. Try and catch some of the shots on your gloves and then counter. No, he just walks straight in. So opponents can time his strong jab but slow jab and counter. I thought if Joe went down, he wouldn't get back up, but he got back up. Some people said it was a flash knockdown. It wasn't a flash knockdown. Like, that's kind of suggesting it wasn't a clean punch. No, it was a clean shot that put him down. He got back up quick, but it's a legit knockdown. It's a legit knockdown. And even though he was hurt, Derek still had his wits about him because he rolled Joyce's right hand. What did Paulie call it? A roll counter. He rolled Joyce's right hand and came back with his own right. Very good move. That shows ring IQ. This is something you'll never see Joe do. Or we haven't seen it yet. Like, why was the fight a 10-rounder? When do you see main events in the UK scheduled for 10? Some people said Derek probably insisted on it being 10 because Derek ain't doing 12 too easy. And they have a fair point. They have a fair point. Joe went down in the 10th. Nothing was landed, but he went down like he was hit by Ernie Shavers. There's something not right with Joe. He got back up, but just the way he went down. Best win of Derek's career is what some are asking. I don't know. Maybe one of the best performances. He was an underdog. Some people are talking about Joyce versus Wilder. I don't know. They're both not looking too clever right now. So that's what makes it hard to pick. Neither of them are anywhere near their form of a few years back. We'll see about that one. Dillian Whyte was in attendance. He congratulated Derek in his dressing room after. He's obviously looking for a fight with Derek, and Derek entertained that as long as Dillian can stay clean. Derek beats Dillian. This time around, Derek beats Dillian. Dillian's had 5 fights since 2019, won 2 out of 3. The inactivity at 36 is going to be an issue for him. Derek said the inactivity affected his legs. You saw how sloppy Dillian looked against Christian Hammer. It would just be Dillian's face and name and reputation selling that fight. But the Dillian that became #1 contender and scored some good knockouts at the O2 no longer has the athleticism, the speed, the chin. But that said, it still could be a good fight. Maybe Del Boy's the guy who could bring that desire back where Dillian really wants it.
Just on Derek Chisora, he said he wants to have another 2 fights. He'd said 3 before Joyce, and that was his farewell to the O2 specifically. Will you be involved in the rest of Derek's journey?
Well, he has a contract with us. He has a contract, and we'll see.
It's a dirty game. I'm not saying Frank is dirty. This is business. So Derek signed a contract with Frank, because I thought I heard correctly, but it was inaudible. Frank didn't come out, yeah, Derek signed with us. It was very inaudible. But I heard him say pre-fight. Throughout the build-up, you never heard him say, yeah, Joyce is going to knock Derek out. He was saying that at the start of the promotion, before Derek signed with him, but now he's neutral. And Derek got the decision. It was a tight fight on 2 of the scorecards. It was very tight. Could actually have been scored a draw. Derek got the decision. And after the second loss to Zhang, you could clearly hear Frank saying, well, he might want to retire. Because he doesn't want to pay him the minimum on his contract for garbage fights. He wants to fill out the O2. Yeah? Frank's getting all emotional. Yeah, remember Dean Powell, our promoter, Derek, said some very touching words about him. Dean committed suicide about 10 years ago. He was the matchmaker, trainer. He done everything for Frank Warren. You see, Joe had 2 losses behind him. He's as dull as paint in the press conferences. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's not fuck around. We will just talk it as it is. He's dull as paint. Derek, you heard by the time he got into the late rounds, oh, Chisora. And even his fist just for 2 more fights, Frank Warren would rather promote Derek Chisora. He'd rather promote Derek. And I would argue he was rooting for Derek to win. Someone in the comment section of the video where I took the clip said, Frank can't wait to offload Joyce from out his contract.
Moving on to Joe now, you've mentioned Derek's contracted to you. You're going to help him out the last 2 fights, presumably, of his career. What about Joe? Because losing to Zhang, the same man twice, top heavyweight in the world, fairly easy to come back from, and you did bring him back. What about now, having lost to Chisora?
Like I said, the loser goes down the pecking order, and that's where he is, and he's got a lot to think about.
When Frank was asked if he'd like to see Joe walk away from boxing right now.
Who, Joe?
Who, Joe? Nah, Keith Ferdinand, Frank. You guys are too young to remember them names. Yeah, Joe Joyce, Frank. Answer the question.
I don't know. If that's how he feels, if that's how it is, yes. If that's how he wants to do it, then that's his decision to make.
And if he does decide to carry on, Frank, will you still be involved in promoting Joe's fights?
Who, Joe?
Yeah, Joe Joyce, Frank. Answer the question.
I think we've got to think what all the options are, including a couple of things that you've mentioned, and also if he did carry on, who he'd fight, what he'd get paid, what's the risk and gain.
I want to big up Danny Flex and Seconds Out. You got skills, kid. He asks the important questions without being obvious and putting Frank's nose out of joint. You know what I mean? Because Danny knew what he was fishing for. Once the promoter says, I don't know, it's down to the fighter. And he's not saying, well, look, of course he's still got fights left. We'd love to work with Joe. He could fight this guy or that guy. Once he says it's up to the fighter, you know what the promoter's thinking. Well done, Danny. Good work. He signed up Derek, a man he said he'll never work with again, knowing there's a good chance that Joe was going to lose after that Cash Alley performance. Hey, listen, Don King flew to Jamaica with Joe Frazier, the champion. And when Joe was bounced up and down the ring like a basketball by George Foreman, and his title was gone, Don King was in the limo with George Foreman on the way back to his hotel. It's no shade on Frank. He's a great promoter. He's doing what all promoters would do. It's as simple as that. If Derek was to beat up Joe and walk away as a free agent, Frank's left with an ever depreciating asset, and he just doesn't want that. Now, if Joe had won against Derek, then Frank could work with that, couldn't he? He could work with that and build up Joe for a fight with someone in the top 10 perhaps. Maybe some of that Saudi dough. 2 wins on the bounce, didn't look impressive by Cash Alley, but a good performance against Derek and all would be forgotten. Maybe the best thing Joe did was sign that long-term agreement with Frank. At the time, a lot of us thought it was a bad idea. But right now, depending how long that cap and what Frank can pay him, that's serving Joe well while he's out of form. You do know Joe got about 250 grand for the Cash Alley fight. And Cash Alley is basically a small hall fighter. Frank don't want to pay that out. But right now, Frank will be looking to cash Joe out. Perhaps against ITAUMA, perhaps. Maybe against David Adelaide. If Solomon Dacres doesn't fight ITAUMA, perhaps against him. Who knows? Tell you this much though, when you're in the promoter's good books, he doesn't sign another fighter as a guarantee in case you lose. Because how would that look to the fighter?
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
What about Sol Dacres?
We've screamed the fight to him. I was terrorising his manager yesterday. Like, literally, get me the fight, get me the fight.
It's ordered. So the board, it's ordered. The board, he's now mandatory for the English title against Sol Dacres. So Sol's got to fight him or vacate, and that's it. Can't say for more than that.
Listen, I'd fight him tomorrow, and I'd fight. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Tonight.
Yeah. You know, listen, I'm tired of calling his name out because I know he's not going to fight. So we just got to move on to bigger, better things.
Would I put Moses ITAUMA in with Joyce? Yes, I would. Is there any need to do it though? No, there's not. From the orthodox position, Moses landed a left hook. The next moves, in the same motion, switched to southpaw, which befuddled WACH and landed the left hook again. Sam and Ben are developing a little repertoire there, aren't they? You know what I mean? And he looks very confident, very fast hands. Handled WACH with a lot of contempt. And looked very good. It's all happening at Queensbury with that English title, you know what I mean? Like Frank's got Adelaide, like Frank's got Solomon Dacres, the English champion, and they've elevated Moses to #1 mandatory contender. So what does Solomon Dacres do? He has to defend. Frank's going to insist on that. The board have insisted, and Solomon will take the fight. He will take the fight. ITAUMA will be an overwhelming favourite because of his form. But Dacres is not going to roll over. And Dacres can box a little and probably put in his best performance last time out against Michael Webster. Done way better in a rematch with Webster than he did in the first fight. David Adelaide, he'll be very disappointed. But after 2 pullouts, which led to Solomon fighting Webster again, the board have pulled his mandatory pass, so to speak. He can have no complaints. He can fight the winner. What Frank will be looking at is not if ITAUMA can take that title of Dacres. It's if he does win a belt. It's hard to turn the clock back and then tell everybody he's a learning fighter. Once you collect a belt, there's always deadlines as champion. What voluntary you're going to take? Mandatory. And there's no going back. Now you're a championship fighter and you're expected to stay there until you're no longer able to compete at that level. And at 19, you got to move Moses at the right time. But you know, they're saying they want him to become the youngest heavyweight champion and beat Mike's record. Well, Mike was 20, so they got to get a move on. So English title next, I guess, if they're really serious about beating Mike Tyson's record. You want to avoid them rookie mistakes like what Ben Shalom has made with the likes of Adam Azim, European champion who had to give up his belt because he wasn't prepped for the challenge of Dalton Smith, because that does the fighter's confidence no good, and it also makes it hard for Ben Shalom to market the kid. So you want to avoid that.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Someone in the comments section actually said that they disagreed with what I had to say, in that Pacquiao versus Barrios are going to sell a whole load of pay-per-views. I'm thinking, after Pacquiao lost to Mayweather, even when he was active, he wasn't doing the same numbers he was pre-Mayweather. Now he's been out of the ring for how long? And the last time we saw him, he lost to a Cuban on the PBC welterweight roster who was like maybe 4th or 5th best they had. But anyway, Pacquiao's hopes of fighting Mario Barrios have been damaged by the exhibition against Rukia Anpo. I saw a copy, highlights basically. Man, he looked heavy. Not fat, but he looked heavy. His opponent was 5'11", a K1 kickboxing champion who had 1 professional fight, and that was a loss. Mario Barrios is 6 foot. He's taller than this guy. And this guy outboxed Pacquiao easily. Double jab, straight rights down the pipe. Pacquiao's right eye was swollen up. Pacquiao was staggered on a couple of occasions when hit with big right hands, as most would at 45. And basically his hopes of fighting Mario Barrios for the WBC interim title have been damaged. And rightly so, you know, like, trust me, the commercial value in that fight is not there. The PBC are making horrible decisions in boxing. Nobody's going to turn up to watch a 45-year-old out of shape, out of prime, outsized. Pacquiao's 5'5", going to take on 6' Barrios at 45. No one's going to pay for that.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.